Alright, welcome to Devlog 1. Please allow me a few minutes of your time to see if perhaps I'm making a game you might enjoy. I hope you'll decide to stick around after for more details. Curious of Conquest, a turn-based strategy game with tactical role-playing elements, puts you in control of one faction in a high fantasy world, with the goal of defeating all other nations and uniting the continent under your control. To achieve this goal, each player forges armies of heroes and monsters to wage a war of attrition against their neighbors. The game is broken into two phases, the organize phase and the attack phase. During each phase of the player's moves are kept secret until all players' commands are locked in. In the organize phase, upgrade and equip your heroes, summon new monsters to replace those who have permanently died, and send your squads to the front line or on quests to gain various advantages. The start of the attack phase reveals where everyone's squads have been garrisoned, and each player uses the same information to lock in attack commands on adjacent territories. Once all attacks have been locked in, they are simultaneously revealed and are resolved in tactical turn-based battles. The battles take place on hex grids unique to each castle being attacked, or the path between two castles if two players attack each other. In this situation, only the winner of that battle goes on to attack their initial target. Tanking, flanking, and raining down magic on your foes may earn you a new territory, or perhaps just weaken the enemy forces for the next round, as the status of units persists to the following organized phase. Accessibility and options are a core focus of development, so each player can play their favorite version of the game, and Curious of Conquest is being built with hot seat multiplayer at its core, where the game settings are decided on before the multiplayer war begins. I hope for online play to be available in the future, but time will tell. Curious of Conquest will first be released on Steam once it's ready, which may be a few years as it is a part-time solo development project that has already taken me 6 years. But I do intend console ports following any reasonable success. Now that I'm done with the pitch, let's get into a more meaningful discussion of the project as it currently stands. My perfectionism insists I spend a minute pointing out this title art and animation are a rough draft that is good enough TM for now. For example, I could put it on a white background. Or magenta. But the question, what color is best, has over 16 million possible answers, whereas should I use black had 2, and one of them was guaranteed to be considerably faster. Also, as I'll mention in a moment, this month was my first time trying to use Blender, so I know I can do better once I get a better grasp of the differences from the 3D software that I can't afford. And the Horde spin was literally saving me over an hour of work to get the halberd and to fade in nicely, because I'm writing this with exactly 2 hours before I need to start the upload, which is also why I'm speaking a little quickly. I'll fix it for next time. Also, this is going to be a one-take recording, so we're basically doing it live. On with the status report and juicy details. The visuals are the majority of what is left before the game has a solid beta available. This was by design, as I'm much more confident with my art degree being useful for once than I am with the self-taught programming skills and such. Unfortunately, since I was taught on 3ds Max and Maya, and Autodesk licenses are kind of ridiculous for solo devs, I now need to also factor in time learning Blender, developing a solid workflow, and breaking habits from Autodesk that sometimes actively hinder my work in Blender. Once I get the hang of the software, I'll be able to give a somewhat accurate estimate of how long the 3D assets will take, and thus when the game will first be available for any kind of hands-on play. The 176 battlefield hex maps have been planned out by hand, but I'm still unsure exactly how I want the presentation to work, and I'm holding off on making aesthetic decisions until I start producing the final 3D models to be used for the units in combat. As far as aesthetics, I designed the world map with the concept of the map of the continent being rolled out on a table amongst commanders. The art for it and for the nation flags can be aesthetically described as an artist's rendition of an artist's rendition. That said, the world map is nearly complete, and next month I should be able to introduce you all to the default map and nations for Curious of Conquest. That's right, I said default. I have built my dev tools to create the map, territories, nations, etc. in Unity, so I figured I might as well polish them up and include the ability for players to generate their own maps, which are then automatically tossed into their local low folder for easy zip and share. To prevent any malicious actors, I've incorporated a mostly functional security functionality in the import system so that once I get it all worked out, you can import custom maps with some degree of comfort. I would still recommend only downloading worlds from reputable sources, like the Brigandine Discord. Wait, you may be thinking, is this just a war game, or will there be a story and a cast of colorful characters with meaningful character development over story arcs? And yeah, I would love to. I got a whole cast of characters largely inspired by my over 20 years as a DM for D&D and all sorts of fluff that I would love to share. Unfortunately, that takes time and /or money to implement. And I feel like getting the game finished takes precedence over telling a story that I think is great. I do, however, intend to develop the systems I will need if and when I do have the time and /or money to include a story mode. Put simply, it would be foolish of me to... yeah, like I said, doing it live. Put simply, it would be foolish for me to contribute large amounts of time to the story of a game that isn't a game yet. Priorities and all of that. Speaking of the game, what have I spent 6 years doing? Almost 100 hero classes, carefully balanced so that each path has a thematic and mechanical tie, and each choice of where to spend your mastery points is meaningful. And this is mastery points per hero, not as you, the player. The system is already fully built to accept the data and content as it is finalized, allowing heroes to freely swap between any classes they meet the requirements for, and it allows the transfer of designated abilities from classes the hero has mastered. So yes, you can have a barbarian that nukes people with magic, or a mage that evade tanks. All completely without any playtesting or balancing as of yet, but this is the point where everything should be more fun than fair. We'll deal with the rest later. Also, the monster evolution system is basically just permanent class changes. Same system, just splitting classes between monster race or hero class, and the game treats them mostly the same. My primary goal in balance is going to be to maintain a sort of perfect imbalance where everything is strong against some things and weak against others. Which is the perfect segue into the elemental system. Fairly straightforward, fire beats life, beats water, beats fire, while darkness and light both deal increased damage to each other and reduce damage to themselves. However, the addition of orb stacking means that a single water orb on a lizard man isn't going to mean much when being smacked by a tier 3 fire archmage casting a tier 3 fire spell. Well, it will actually still reduce damage compared to a pixie, 6 fire orbs versus 1 life orb, not much life left after that. However, you may be asking, how can it be a war of attrition if a mage can one-shot monsters left and right? Well, if the archmage uses all that mana to nuke a pixie, he won't have that mana the rest of the battle, or the next battle, or maybe even the one after that, when he may need it a lot more. Health, mana, and resolve. Oh, I haven't mentioned resolve yet. Well, that system is working too. Maybe I'll talk about it next month instead of maps and territories or something. But, yeah. They only restore 20% of their max values per month, or cycle of organize and attack phase. If you don't like that, no problem. I built the systems to allow this value to be completely modifiable. The values can be set anywhere from 100% restore, so everyone is completely fresh every month, or 0% restore, which honestly would kind of break the game, since monsters would be guaranteed to be permanently killed, and heroes would become wounded at some point for sure. So, to make it still playable, I had to include a separate percent restoration for wounded heroes option, which has an awful tentative name, but allows you to actually adjust it separately from the monthly regen system. So, perhaps bumping up to 100%, even if you don't have the monthly restore at 0%, might make allowing your low health hero to be wounded and have him potentially lose monsters, but then, after being unavailable for, by default, 1d4 rounds, which is also fully adjustable, perhaps he'll pop right back up ready to fight. So if you get lucky, 1 round full heal, even with the default 20% regen, that's still a very nice trade-off. Okay, I'm just going to stop there before I keep going on and on about how I'm doing my best to make everything that can be optional or adjustable so that you can have fun the way you want. Let's talk about one thing that is not optional, the resolve system. One issue that always arises from tactical RPG systems is that once your stats get to a certain point, there's no more losing. So many games I've found situations, either by chance or by min-maxing like a little munchkin, where a single unit could defeat many times their numbers. Well, in Curious of Conquest, I wanted to really hammer home that war of attrition vibe. Yes, I let you turn off the carryover between battles if you want, but in a battle, there is still a war of attrition between units. If you have a high-level, incredibly powerful unit that you think will win against overwhelming odds, that's where resolve comes in. Most things in combat chip away at a unit's resolve. I'll do a full delve into the resolve system in a future devlog, but put simply, as a unit's resolve gets bogged down, they perform more poorly. This is tracked in tiers, and a penalty is applied that grows and grows to essentially everything the unit would do as their resolve is drained. At minimum resolve, they are a pale shadow of their former self, unable to cast spells or use abilities. I have debated with myself many times over whether or not they should still be able to use basic attacks, or just move and defend. But I do still think that at all points they will be able to counterattack with the reduced stats from the resolve being low. This system obviously is going to take a lot of balance and tweaking to get fully achieved, doing it live, to fully achieve my goals with it. I'm just going to restart that sentence. This system obviously is going to take a lot of balance and tweaking to fully achieve my goals with it, but I feel like it will be an absolute goldmine of strategy once it's perfected. The system is functional, but all variables are very loosely guessed at the moment, and I feel like real playtesting is going to be the point where I can actually make any adjustments to make the resolve system shine. Rest assured, it is functional. All that really is needed is numbers to be adjusted and booleans to be set. I wish I could show everything that the crude cubes and proxy art I was using had, but the file backups that survived the computer death last year have set me back a lot. Well, not really that much. I mean, not to worry. Everything of value was kept. I didn't lose a single line of code, just all the stuff in Unity that plugged the code together. So I basically have all the Legos that used to be a cool castle, and now I have to remember how to put them back together. Or I could put them together to make an even better, cooler castle. So yeah, let's do that. Yeah, so that's the full status report off the top of my head with no time left to proofread and just enough time to record and render before the deadline to schedule the video for tomorrow. This was set as a premiere, and I will be in the chat the whole video, so if you made it here and have anything else to ask that you haven't already, feel free to toss some questions out. I'll be hanging out a bit before leaving chat. Thank you all for listening to my rant, and I look forward to making more progress and sharing the journey with you during these devlogs at the start of each month. Gotta say, after this one, I might be willing to give myself a few days wiggle room instead of saying, yes, exactly the first of each month. Finally, I have to mention to anyone who somehow made it this far into this devlog without knowing of the other two or that entire live stream marathon I've done, that yes, this game is inspired by Brigandine Legend of Forcena way back on the PlayStation 1. Go watch Devlog 0. Only thing I have to add at this point is TLDR of the stream marathon was, I like my evolution of Brigandine better. Well, that's been the devlog for July 2022. I hope you enjoyed it, and until next time, have a good one.